Where are these places at that y'all are doing this?
This idea of what income-based housing and affordable housing. If I hear another affordable housing, then go pull up because we got people that we serve, and it's like, okay, affordable housing. Well, why is it $1,200 a month?
Right, that's ridiculous.
More than that. Kentucky got $725 minimum wage.
That's what I was about to say.
My cousin Alexis. See, insert cute wave. Yes, before we get into the topic, I want to shout out the space that we're in right now. We are in Paducah, Kentucky at the House of Ross Coffee, Bar, and Cigar Lounge. So shout out to Mr. George Ross for allowing us to utilize this space. We have his beautiful products here. I can vouch for the coffee, specifically the Kentucky coffee, because that's where we are. Place is very important. Outside of this space, no, not outside of this space, outside of the Tea for Talking podcast, he is also hosting his next event around Labor Day. So make sure you pull up to the House of Ross Coffee Bar and Cigar Lounge. But across the street, let me tell you, last night I was stuffed like a motherfucker. I was eating at the Northside Stop and Go. Yes, I had that fish plate, baby. So shout out to Eric Hutchinson. Shout out to Zaria and Janae and all of the Copeland family, my extended family. Shout out to Marquise. Even though we didn't see you this weekend, we heard you was here last weekend. So wonderful product placement for all the things. And yes, we're about to get into it. We are in Paducah for the 8th of August. The 8th of August is our Emancipation Day. So you got Juneteenth. That shit went national. It was really a Texas holiday. Motherfuckers in Paducah been celebrating 8th of August since, I don't even know, before I was born. It is a Western Kentucky / Tennessee celebration of our emancipation, of our freedom, of our liberation. And this is around the time that we got the news. So we didn't get no news Juneteenth. It came about August, okay? So August 8th is the day that we celebrate, and we celebrate the entire week. So just want to give a shout out to why we are here, what we are doing, because place is important. All right, so today I have my cousin Alexis with me, and we are about to have a deep conversation. So my voice is sounding really light and fluffy and harmonious, and then we're gonna talk into some fucking deep shit. So we're gonna flip the motherfucking script real quick. I want to talk a little bit about like what the topic will be. I know people don't have long attention spans. We're gonna have a long conversation. So while we 3 minutes into this video, we'll go ahead and share with you that like we're gonna be talking about some deep shit, and you're gonna listen to this podcast if you're somebody who is navigating addiction. You're going to listen to this podcast if you are loving someone who is navigating addiction. If you are a father who is potentially not around as often as you should be fucking listening to this podcast. If you have ever been to jail have been institutionalized against or alongside your will, this podcast is for you. We want to talk about systems and structures and how they're all working particularly in place perfectly to keep us the fuck down. Also, you might want to listen to this podcast if you are thinking about how can you support people and how can you love on people who are navigating these different issues that we're going to talk about. Anything that you want to add to that?
And a lot of times people don't know like the outreach on where they can go to even get that help, you know. So if you are experiencing that right now and you just kind of need some guidance or some help or even just a listening ear on, you know, dang, I felt that, or I've been there before, or my mom or my dad or anybody, my child's been through that, you know, this is for you guys.
Yes, and I just want to put a good reminder on this time to say like people exist and people are allowed to be flawed because no one is perfect, and people should be embraced regardless of what value you're putting on them. All of us have equal value. You're placing value on people based on certain things that they do or don't do, certain places that they go to or don't go to. And you really need to just value people as people regardless of their walk of life, because that will make us a more harmonious state of people.
Most definitely.
I do want to share some like statistics, because outside of the raw conversation we're going to have, there's always some data that backs this shit up. And so in Kentucky, 72.5% of overdose deaths in 2022 involved fentanyl. 79.1 of overdose deaths in 2023 included fentanyl, which increased from the previous year. And also, over 67% of overall overdose fatalities are among men. So, men, you are important. This topic is for you as well. Just because you see two women up here talking doesn't mean you are counted out. Also, want to give a shout out to Eastern Kentucky. They've been doing a lot of rehab and intentional harm reduction work, and because of that, they've been able to experience a 20% drop in their overdose deaths in 2023 due to the expanded treatment. So, I want to kind of segue into how we're going to talk about this topic. Could you tell us a story? Give us the backstory on what led you to want to have this conversation. And before you get into it, like, I know this is your actual lived experience. You are the expert in your life. And I want to thank you for coming, bringing your authenticity, bringing your real, your rawness, and being open and transparent to share what so many of us are going through but not fucking talking about.
It's definitely.
So yeah, and if you need me to like reread that, I can because I know I said a lot.
You're fine. So basically, for me, it started as a young kid. I've always had, you could probably vouch for this spontaneous party type personality in me. I got along with all types of people. I never really had a certain group of friends, you know. I love to be around any group of people, and my main thing was let's have fun, you know. So, of course, it started innocent, you know, high school, middle school. Who doesn't drink, smoke a little bit, maybe experiencing a little, you know, ecstasy here and there once I got into my 20s and stuff, you know, and then actually I got into an altercation and I went to the hospital, Western Baptist, back when they would write you a script for having anything. Mind you, I had nothing wrong with me. I had an open abrasion on my knee where the concrete had scraped my knee, and they gave me a script of fives. I'll never forget my mom saying, "You don't need these." And I argued with her because I felt like they're mine. I want them, you know, trying to be grown. And that started a whole, it was like a light switch. It turned something on. And like I said, of course, it still felt innocent at first until things in my life started changing. I wasn't able to work. I wasn't able to do the things that I was supposed to do normally, even as an 18, 19-year-old person. You know, I've been dealing with this for 15 years on and off, you know. So it was something that kind of I just lost control of in my life. And I want to bring it to the attention to everybody because there's a lot of people in these days that are going through it. Even if you think, oh, I get this prescribed from a doctor, that's how it starts for some people. Because one day when you get cut off, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go and search, or are you going to be able to just stop that? You know what I mean? It's a number of people that go through addiction, not just from being in the streets and picking up something and just, you know, being a junkie, as they say. Yep. There are functioning addicts, people that are in the hospitals, the courthouses,
your lawyer,
everywhere that are functioning addicts, you know. So, like I was telling her, you know, we always hear, especially here in Paducah, you know, down the street, Joe's been smoking whatever for 20, 30 years. That's just Joe. When all reality, no, we need to reach out to Joe. He's somebody's dad, grandpa, uncle, you know, and nobody thinks anything until it's too late, until we're getting that phone call and it's like, oh, dang, what could we have done, you know? And I feel like maybe if we open the eyes to some of these people and, you know, all these family members, all these people who are going through it personally, that maybe, you know, it can send somebody in the right direction. I've always been told when I went to rehabs and stuff, one story can change somebody's life. Yep. Just one, because somebody could be out there like, man, if she did it, I can do it, you know? And so it's important to me because it's a big part of my life. And it's made me who I am today. I don't take back anything that I've been through with it because I wouldn't be the person I am today and as strong as I am for my children and the people around me, you know.
In the story you mentioned, you got a script of fives. What does that mean?
They gave
to someone who doesn't know.
They gave me a prescription of a Lortab 0.5 milligrams. which there's different milligrams and variations. But at my age, I was, I want to say like 18. I was probably 100 pounds soaking wet. It was probably a lot for me at that time. I really didn't need it, you know. And when I took it, it was, you know, they'll tell you it's like a light switch, you know, you turn it off, you turn it on, and it's hard to get it back off, and it never comes off. You just have to maintain, you know, I'm always going to wake up and fight it. I may not think about it. I may not, every day, live it, but I am living it every day because I do wake up every day and have to choose to be sober, you know. So it is, it's pretty much something that you have to take with a serious note.
When you were prescribed fives, was there a time where after that prescription ended, you needed tens? Like, can we talk a little bit about like the progression of?
I don't think it really started that fast. I want to say for like, still during that part, I really didn't know what I was doing, but I did. And I knew, of course, at that point, it's never safe to buy any prescription pills from anybody, mind you. But at that point in the streets, they say, you didn't have a problem saying, hey, can I get a couple of those? Or so when that did run out, I looked for more. At that point, what I know now, the addiction had already set in.
Yeah.
Because I instantly wanted more. And it didn't matter what milligram at that point or anything, I knew in my mind I wanted more. And it also gives you a physical type of situation. So after taking them for however long for that script to end, my body got accustomed to that.
Yeah.
So then it was like, oh my God, I do not want to feel like this, So I know, I knew enough then. I put two and two together. If I go get more, I take something else, I'll feel better. And it just progressed into that. And then, of course, like you said, I did have to start getting, more eventually after the years passed. It was like a 5 was eating a Tylenol. It went to 10s. Then, it went from Lortabs to Percocets, from hydrocodone to oxycodone to something stronger. And then eventually, it manifests into whatever stronger opiate was going to fulfill my body's need, I guess, is what you can say.
The chemical imbalance of it all. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
I do want to also mention how in Kentucky, even though in Eastern Kentucky they are rehabbing and expanding their treatment, at the same time, the state of Kentucky is fucking fucked up. We all know Kentucky is like 50,000 years behind all the other states. And last year they passed the Safer Kentucky Act, which was House Bill 5, and it criminalized houselessness. It criminalized young people, but it also criminalized people who are navigating addiction. It increased their penalties for their crimes related to substance abuse and substance misuse, but it also criminalized houselessness and created mandatory sentencing. And oftentimes, a lot of these things have intersections and go together. So if I'm navigating substance misuse and I'm also houseless, that is now a crime, and I'm just going to jail for that. What is your perspective on the satire of it being called the Safer Kentucky Act? Like, are these things making Kentucky safer?
I mean, at that point, I feel like they're saying, okay, they're homeless and they use drugs, let's throw them away. They're not gonna benefit from anything, which personally I know is not true. I've been through, I'm gonna 3 rehabs, two short term, one long term. I've graduated McCracken County Drug Court, which back when I was in it, I graduated in 2019, had a 75% failure rate. 75%. I'm not going to tell you how many times I had to get incarcerated to get through the program,
right.
But and I'm also not going to say that it didn't change some of my perceptions on things either. I don't want to just downplay the drug court system or parts of the system that do work, but I do not believe that you should just throw them away. I believe that if someone's homeless, and someone's fighting, addiction, it does go hand in hand, because 9 times out of 10, when you have a substance use problem, you all your money and all your care goes to that drug.
Yeah.
And keeping yourself afloat. They don't care. And I'm not even gonna say they. I didn't care whether I had $1 to feed myself, whether I had $1 to, have for rent, for lights. As long as I was under the influence, that's all that mattered for me. So, but that also stems for the problems. It doesn't mean that they're just nobody and just lock them up, because some of those people are some of the most amazing people that you've ever met. Some of the most smart, intelligent. It's just the label situation and putting them off to be, oh, they're just homeless, or they have an addiction. All these people can be changed if given the right resources and given the chance, instead of just putting in this situation or looked down upon, like, oh, they're just whatever they are, just throw them away or put them in jail so we know where they are. I don't believe I don't agree with it. I think that there's a different way they could have went about it to help these people, for sure.
Yeah. I think that kind of gets us to the point of, we need to talk more about what's going on in our community. And if we're not talking about it, then we're definitely not advocating for it. Then we're definitely not creating policy change around it, which means that more House Bill 5s can be created and ripple down and affect our communities negatively and impact our communities negatively. So I think this is a good time to talk more about, like, why are we not talking about this more in the Black community specifically? Why are we sweeping this under the rug? Why are we turning a blind eye? And why are we moving so fast throughout life that we've become individuals that when someone we know passes away from an overdose, we just get back up and go to work? We're not thinking about it. We're not even making Facebook statuses about the awareness of it all. We're just, all right, well, I got to go to work. It's unfortunate this happened to this person. They've been going through this for so long. It was bound to happen.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit more about that. Why do you feel like that's happening?
I do feel like, as far as an addiction in the Black community as a whole, I don't think that there's a lot of knowledge there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame a lot of people, from somebody who's been in this institution, jails and all that. Most of the time when you are sent to these places, it's because the government has sent you there.
Yep.
So it's harder for a Black man or woman to want to walk in these places, because they're thinking this is where they sent, you know what I mean? It's more like, this is where, that I know a police or somebody's going to be, or one of these people are going to be there looking at me like they don't really want help, or whatever they think in their mind. I do think it's harder. We don't have any Black ran NA meetings, AA meetings, anywhere somebody can come and seek help and not have to worry about somebody being a law enforcement officer, or that's where the PO is going to send you, or, something like that. And also, I feel like it's glorified a lot in a lot of the songs and videos. I mean, I'm guilty. I watch it. I listen to it, but it is, a lot of people don't feel it's not addiction. We're just chilling, or we're hanging, or we're getting messed up, or we're drinking some whatever, it's glorified more. So I feel like that's just part of, it's almost made it to where that's part of who we are.
Yeah.
Is where they
it's
try
become
to make
so
it
embedded in our community that, like, it's also the economic system.
Yeah.
It's also like, I either take drugs or I sell drugs, or I do both.
Right. Most definitely.
I will even sell drugs to people I know who don't need to be taking drugs.
Most definitely.
This is how I'm getting my money.
And they know what it is. You know, it's more of a,
either I'm gonna give them these drugs, somebody else gonna give them these drugs.
Right. At least I'm the one doing it. No, and that's not how it goes in all reality. I do think it, like you said, swept under the rug for sure. And until somebody dies, then that's when everybody's like, oh my gosh, we need to, this person was dealing with this. We need to, yes, but we've been knowing this person was dealing with this. So why didn't we try to do something about it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't we try to help him, give him some knowledge, or just anything? Not saying people didn't,
right?
For him or her, whoever, you know what I'm saying? But like, a lot of times I just don't think that there is a lot of comfortability in the situation on being able to go to get that professional help that they need.
Yep.
I feel like I wish that we had a lot more Black owned ran or people who have been through it that would open something to even just open discussions once a month.
Yep, like a sober space.
Yeah,
a
just
third
for
space
whoever,
that is a sober space,
whether
just for people to come and gather.
Whether you're using, whether you're a family member, you lost someone, just whatever. Just if you need to come and hear somebody, or and you don't even have to, statistically call it a NA meeting or a AA meeting, because that's where some of the scare comes in. Like, oh, hold up, you know what I mean?
Let's just have coffee.
Some people aren't ready to say, it took me a while. Some people aren't ready to be like, I have a problem.
Yeah.
Or I'm an addict.
Yeah.
So just having that, time and space to be able to just even be like, okay, this is who I am, and listening to somebody else, or just anything like this podcast now, when somebody listens to it, they're just, they could be like, man, you know what I mean? She's right. We do need that. Or maybe influence somebody to say, you know what, we do need to open that building and turn it into something like anything.
I think we navigate like being reactive so often to something instead of being proactive.
Most definitely.
And so then we're like, oh man, that happened. What can we do about it? And it's like, well, it's too fucking late. That already happened. But what could you have done to prevent that?
Most definitely.
And then how can this death impact us to move to be in a proactive state and
to make changes?
Yeah. You said something a minute ago that made me think of like, what do you wish somebody would have told you when you said people are not even aware or ready to admit that they need help, that they are an addict, that they are navigating substance misuse, that they need a supportive ecosystem. And so what would you recommend, like, or wish people would have done or said to you in that time?
Honestly, it's hard for me to say that, because I did have a big supportive family, you know what I'm saying, with all of you guys and everybody, but and it's almost like, until you're ready, you know what I'm saying? It was almost, it took me to have to be, I guess, just tired. You have to be ready, because I can't say that, you know what I'm saying? I can't say if we took one person right now and took them to the best rehab, and
that ain't it,
and something happened and boom, they go right back. I can't say that, because like I've said, I've been to plenty, I've graduated drug court. It's just, I think one day, and honestly, I think it was even after I had my son, I was 26 when I had my son. I had him in drug court. I graduated in 2019. I had him in 2018. And still, it took a minute for me to adjust, from, when you get in those places, you're forced to have to do something. It's not because you wanted to, so it makes your perception on things a little harder. Like, I don't even want to be here, or I'm forced to be here, or, it took me having to come out and just, I guess, one day being like, this ain't it, man. I didn't have anything to offer, my kid. I didn't have anything to offer myself, I wasn't happy when I looked in the mirror. So I think it was more or less, I was tired, but we're talking about 15 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? 15 years. And some people a year, and they're like, man, that wasn't for me. Some people 30 years, some people never stop, whatever. But like I said, it's just all in, really, I feel like, and all that support and everything did have a lot to help. I do wish that maybe I wish that somebody would have told me that even though no matter how many times you mask your feelings or get high, you're still going to have to face that same thing every day. It doesn't matter, you know? And if I knew what I knew then, I'd been done a long time ago, because most of the time, at first it started out fun. Then it became a hobby. Like, then it became something I had to do because of the physical and just being, so it just, after it just became like a chore or something to have to do just to feel normal and live a normal life, for me is what it was, just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
It almost, it does take a deep, thought. And then I did a year in jail. I missed my son's birthday. I missed a few things I've never missed in my, in ever in his life. And for me, that was I did not like that. I did not like the feeling of actually not being able to be there for him. You know what I'm saying? And I believe that all of that things, roles that played, just kind of woke me up. It's more reality that hit me more than somebody that actually, was talking to me or telling me. Because, like, at the end of the day, until you love yourself and want to do it for yourself, you can't do it for anybody else. And I learned that the hard way. I'd say in rehabs and everything, I don't care about me. I don't, I'd be high today, but I'm doing this for my son because I want better for him. When all reality, I couldn't give him better, and I couldn't love him because I couldn't love me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it takes a lot of different realities for different people, I think, before they're able to be like, this just isn't it no more,
Yeah. I think you could be fully aware that you're in a shitty situation.
Oh, for sure.
And still don't know how to
get out of
it, leave it. I mean, people are with, harmful partners, people dabble in other vices. And I think it becomes that point of, I need to realize I need to love me.
Right. And that's where
I have hated me for so long. And I have masked that I hate me for so long.
And that's the thing. It starts before the drugs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It starts before whatever
you're
your
already insecure
situation.
And questioning your surroundings and your ecosystem.
From childhood, from, just anything, there's already been something in play that usually people, are trying to mask or trying to whatever, change that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, like, for me, I would, at 18, I mean, yes, I had been through some things, but I'm not going to say I was doing it to run away from something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? At that particular time. But I knew that when I took it, it gave me that warm, fuzzy feeling that I wasn't feeling somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it each to its own. Every addict and every, whatever your addiction is, whatever that was, it gave you the feeling that something else in life wasn't giving you, or you wouldn't have kept chasing it. So sometimes it is deeper than just the drug, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times, all the rehabs and everybody I've been through in jail, it comes from, people that had mental issues they didn't know about and were, self-medicating. It was, my so-and-so passed away and I didn't know how to deal with it. I lost my kid and I lost myself, just simple things. I wrecked my car and that's all I had. We were sleeping in there. Just anything, you know what I mean? Like, can just be the reason or set something off for somebody to just want to run away from that stuff. So,
yeah. When you talked about you were pregnant during drug court, also just want to bring up that, like, we were pregnant at the same time.
Yes.
But we had two opposite, like, experiences.
Most definitely.
I was super sick. I had hyperemesis gravidarum. I literally could not eat or drink or anything. I lost 30 pounds during my pregnancy. I about died during childbirth. Like, we can't even go down the rabbit hole of the terrible healthcare system, that how they treat us as Black women in spaces that we're supposed to be cared for. But I want to talk more about your experience while you were navigating addiction, also pregnant. What does that look like? How were you able to navigate that in a way that, you're growing a person, but also you are
rewiring your brain at the same time is basically what it is.
That's literally what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not gonna emotionally, for sure. Emotionally, it was just really, really hard because
you're already out of whack, pregnant.
Most definitely, and then I'm thinking everywhere. Well, and then I wasn't as confident, and I'm still working through all these things and learning how to cope with being sober. Like, after 15 years, learning how to cope, normally has been hard for me. even to this day, I'm learning how to, do it normally. I have a bad habit of isolating. I'll disappear. I'll cut everybody off,
Yeah.
which makes me feel worse. But I do not, it's just I'm learning how to cope
It's
without
a
having to
negative
run.
coping mechanism.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
learning trying to figure out how to cope without using substances, because that's what I've always ran to. But for like being pregnant with him, I can say it was a blessing because I was very, very new to the being sober situation, and I needed that guidance. I really did. I'm not gonna say. That's why I said I don't want to downplay the drug court system because it doesn't work for everybody, and I'm not going to say I didn't get high afterwards, but some of the stuff that I learned from being in that program definitely helped me in my life.
So the information,
that I got,
always the way that you have to get the
yes,
information.
most definitely. But I definitely learned from things in that. So in order for them, it was like, keeping me under their thumb, and for me it was like I have mommy and daddy making sure I'm not doing anything wrong, because I needed that. Yes, I needed it, at that time, to make sure I was doing everything right that I needed to do for my son, because at that point I feel like it wasn't about me. I had to make sure I did whatever I could for him. And it was just hard. I kept thinking to myself, like, what if when I get out of this program, like, what if I mess up? I have this kid now, and I was also 26. I was a lot older than, statistically people have their kids, So I was just kind of like, I really didn't know how it was going to work out, or if it would work out, or if I would be able to be the mom, or if I would relapse and not be the mom. Like, I contemplated all these things, but I just kind of, at some point that mother instinct kicks in regardless of what you're doing in life. Ooh, yeah. And you just have to be like, this is my baby. And I realized I'm like, I'm going to be strong for him. I'm going to complete this program, and I'm going to bring this healthy baby into this world by the grace of, God and everything he set me up to be in that situation. I'm always a firm believer. I was meant to get arrested. I was meant to go through these programs. I was meant to be in every situation I was in, because I learned from every single one of them, and it made me stronger to be that mother, than I am today. And even mentally then, being pregnant with him, I knew he gave me that drive, you know what I mean? Like, regardless of a drug, I have to be okay for him, know? So I think that's what mentally kept me going, as far as in being pregnant in those type of, in a program like that, which is very intensive. I had no privacy. I think when I had Amari, I literally didn't even get to heal within like a couple of days. I was going up there to take drug tests, I'm not trying to put too much information. I still had stitches. Like, I wasn't even, they don't care about none of that, So like she said, sometimes it ain't the program itself, that it's the information you get out of it, and it sucks that a lot of people have to go through those things to get that, information they need. You know what I'm saying? So
I think this podcast is a good conduit to, this is the information they had from us. You've received it, you've chopped it down, you've made it digestible, and now we're having a conversation about it. And if more people could have these conversations, we could share that information without having to go through the court system or through an institution. Yeah. Let's talk about single motherhood and the intersections of, okay, I'm still navigating addiction and I'm going on a day by day, sometimes a minute by minute basis. But what does that look like as it intersects with being a single mother on that daily basis?
Ooh, it's hard, my son's a blessing, you know what I mean? The first, like I said, I missed a birthday. The first couple years of his life, I don't want to say about one up until he was about 2. It took me a minute, man.
Yeah.
Even like, I relapsed, and I don't know if this is really like an excuse. Sometimes I try to like, or if it's me trying to justify it, but sometimes I used to tell myself, like, I found myself being selfish because I didn't have him.
for so long it was just me, you know, and then at 26, boom, here he is, you know, have to worry about somebody else.
Every time I talk about parenthood, people are like, don't you love it? And I'm like, bitch, this is every day.
Yes. I mean, there was time, and mind you, like, I'm not going to say it's the best, but I was getting high with him at some times, you know, when, you know, he would be with me, I would be high. And to me, I felt like you can feel the big difference on being sober parent and a high parent. You know what I mean? My patience and everything.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's of course every
just
day.
Snapping.
Most definitely. My mom has always said, she used to tell me all the time, do you not think that I wish I could get up and just go get high instead of going to work? Yeah. You know? And now I see what she means, you know what I mean? Now that, you know, I've been sober, it's going on 4 years, and you know, but it has been different. You know, I love to say my child doesn't even know that me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm so grateful for that. You know, I'm going to tell him personally, you know, because there's always going to be that one person that wants to tell your child something about you, because that's the world we live in. I hate to say that, but I want him to know personally, you know, we lived in Lexington 6 months, Chrysalis House, wonderful rehab for mother and children. He lived with me there for 6 months. Like, my child does not even know any of this, you know, that he's been incorporated into this life that I had going on, you know.
The things we do as mothers, like, I think at some point I'm gonna have to tell Jordan, like, the first 6 months of his life we lived in a hotel.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I mean, and it's just, and it for me, I feel like I'm gonna earn more respect that way for me to lie to him, or for somebody else to tell him that's, you know, in their way, not even
right from their perspective, you know what I mean? And how they done telephone that shit
family,
around.
Yeah. You know, I hate to say it, even family, they're bad about, you know, wanting to tell your children things that you're like, you know, come on now, you know what I'm saying? But every day, you know, I mean, I say it's a gift and a curse, because he keeps me going. He gives me that reason. He gives me that drive. Yeah. Like, every morning I look at him, and there are times, you know, like I said, 4 years that I've rolled over and had a bad day, or something's happened in my life, and I've had to look at him and cry and be like, you know, if you weren't laying here, ain't no telling what I would go do right now. You know what I'm saying? So he does keep me definitely motivated, and you know, the little things they say, you know, like, I love you and stuff like that, it means a lot. It makes you feel like, you know, I am doing this for a reason. You get on my nerves. You know what I'm saying? I want to go dump you in the trash can. But, you know, it gives you that, you know, reason. And I do thank God, you know, being a single mother, that he gave me a little boy, you know, sometimes, because I'm like, I needed that. You know, I always see the sayings that say God gives you a little boy when you've never had a man to love you correctly in your life, because that man will always love you. You know what I mean? And sometimes I start to believe that's true. Like, he gave me that comfort of what I've yearned for. You know, but
a piece of unconditional love.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
But it's not easy being a single mother and having to, you know, navigate, like you said, on coping skills. Sometimes I'm not going to say, like, I'm the best. You know, sometimes I get frustrated and I might yell at him, and I have to catch myself being like, come on, don't do that. It ain't even that serious. You know what I'm saying? Or I've literally went into, like, the bathroom, jumping up and down, having my own tantrums, coming out crying. And he's like, Mom, why are you crying? And I'm thinking, you know,
you child,
you kid, you know, but I can pull it together and we're going to get through it. You know what I'm saying? But
I think the transparency that I would say this generation of parents is allowing their children to, like, experience emotions and experience life with the parent has opened their eyes to almost more unconditional love.
Most definitely.
Because, like, there's been times where, like, I'm snapping at Jordan and I'm like, I am so sorry I just yelled at you. And really, I don't know a time that Letha Ryan would have ever. Like, our parents, and this is not just our parents, but just
mental health
the generation, the generational differences in how, like, you go get your ass whooped for that, versus like we could have a conversation about that and
Right.
you would actually understand, versus if I whoop your ass, like you're still not going to understand why I told you not to do that.
Yeah, most
And
definitely.
so like I think that creates another level of like trust for them to be their whole selves with us, because we're not perfect and we're not trying to show them a cookie cutter version of a perfect parent.
Most definitely.
And so when we do have times where we slip and we have flaws, we can also just go right back to that and say, look, this is what was going on. I'm so sorry this happened. I am also not a perfect person, but this is what I was feeling
and
in
that
that time.
gives them that
Yeah.
knowledge on being able to do, because my son tells me they do that a lot at school. They say like bad feelings, good feelings,
Yep.
under how somebody's making them feel, and he'll tell me like, Mom,
Yep.
when you did that, that made me feel
Ooh,
bad.
and that's
You
the
know?
other side of talking with your kids. Is
And it
like
makes
when
you
you
feel like-
flawed, they say that shit back to you,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Dang, you're right.
sometimes
you
he's
know?
like, can you breathe for a second? Do
I
you need
have-
to count to 3?
I have road rage bad, and I notice my son knows me, and I might say something I ain't supposed to say, and he'll be like, Mom, calm down,
Yep.
It's just like,
Jordan says, geez.
they definitely know how to balance you out for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But living in this time is not hard. It's not easy, especially with, like I said, the addiction part, the mental health, and then on top of the economy, it's so hard to live out here.
Yeah.
I'm having a baby now, and to find a 3-bedroom is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like pulling tooth and nail to even find somewhere to go, and then they want to, we're trying to help the communities for lower incomes with children and this and that. I'm thinking, where are these places at that y'all are doing this
idea of what income-based
Yeah.
housing and affordable housing. If I hear another affordable housing, then go pull up, because we got people that we serve and it's like, okay, affordable housing. Well, why is it $1,200 a month?
Right, that's ridiculous.
Who affording that? Kentucky got $7.25 minimum
That's
wage.
what I was about to say. It would
minimum wage ain't changed since we was little.
You would have to make 19 something an hour, they were saying. I seen in an article, in order
Mhm.
to even get the average 2-bedroom home here, 1 bath is $900 and something, they were saying. And I'm just like, something needs to be done.
I don't even think that's the average.
Because they're saying all this homelessness and trying to do all this, but then it's like it's worse. Like it's making it where it's harder for people to want to work and do the legal thing because they can't afford to live on that.
And I think that's also why they are aligning like House Bill 5 to create people to be more criminalized and to go to jail, so that they can create more jails, because that is their economy. And that is their idea of creating,
trying to survive or get what they need.
So let's talk about like the jail and institutionalized experiences, like the good, the bad. You can shout out, like earlier you shouted out organization. Like what is navigating the carceral system like for someone who is also navigating substance misuse at the same time?
Well, I know in the jail facilities, I can't speak for all, but fighting an addiction first of all, they don't have any resources inside a jail to help you with anything. The most they're going to do is throw you in a holding cell. They're going to ask you, are you coming down or whatever? If you're having any kind of symptoms or something like that, they're going to throw you in a holding cell, give you maybe hydroxyzine or something for a couple days to maybe help you sleep or something. And then it's over, you go get thrown in another cell. I've been in there and have been in the worst of situations, like coming off of drugs, you know what I'm saying? And not saying it's good, but most of the time I always knew somebody in there and I'd have at least somebody to help me, but they don't have any means of helping people in especially county jails. That you got your programs, but those are just, for DOC, to give you so that you can get time off, or because they want you to do them. They're so scripted, you know what I mean? It's not like they really have somebody coming in there talking. Yes, they don't have somebody coming in there talking. They don't have any, resources that give you even in there. So when they do open those doors, you know what I'm saying, they're just letting you right back on the street. I'd hate to say, I don't want to put anybody's name out there, but I love him to death. We grew up with him, Tristan. I see him so many times on the jail site, and I'm thinking, why can nobody help him? Y'all say all the government stuff that y'all have in there, and he comes in front of y'all every other whatever, and can't nobody set him up with a social worker, a somebody that's going to help him to where he can at least stay in an Oxford house, or do something to get on the right track, or get the mental help that he needs to get on the right track. No, they put him in there for whatever he does and put him right back out on that sidewalk, open that door, and he's done.
And then somebody pulls their fucking phone out and takes a picture of his motherfucking ass. And that's the updates we get when we see folks who we already know who are navigating this system, as we see motherfuckers speculating and being on the side going, ha ha ha, couldn't be me. Bitch, yes it could.
It could be
any of us. And it's probably your cousin. And it's probably your mom. And it's probably your aunt. It's literally so many people who are navigating substance misuse that you are ignoring and poking fun at.
Yeah, most definitely. And like I said, he goes in they go in the jail, and like I've been in there, they don't give you any, anything to where if you are lost or trying to navigate some way to get sober or find a home or get away from the people you're with or whatever, there is none of that unless you just you just have to call the police. They don't tell you what to do, and then as far as in like the prisons and stuff, I know that they don't really have a lot of stuff set up as far as in the drug rate there. They're getting higher than we are out here. You know what I mean? Yeah. They don't have any monitoring for real going on in there. And then I heard through the grapevine that they are offering like a Suboxone and stuff like that to people in the prisons to take like 90 days and take time off. But some of these people don't even have addictions or need the medication. They're just so ready to get out. Yeah. You're starting addictions. Yep. And then once they come home,
so they can be dependent on a drug, that they need to chase and then go back to jail.
The way it's just so backwards, like we're gonna, we don't want you to be an addict, but we're gonna give you this and tell you we're gonna take 90 days off so we can get our grant or whatever they're getting out of it, because that's all it really is.
It's all about the money.
Sending you back to the streets, you know, and then now
creating a cycle, because now you are addicted,
and you have to go and get it.
Yeah.
The
system is working exactly how they designed it. It is not flawed. I think a lot of times people are like, the system's broken. No, bitch. The system is created to keep us harmed, to keep us down, and to actually fucking kill us. And it is working like an oiled tire. Well, what do they say? An oiled machine.
Yeah, most definitely. They say they are the biggest gangsters. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? In all reality.
And they collecting.
Most definitely. Extortion, all that. They're doing all of it.
Yeah, because then if they can get you in this system, they can also get you to do their duties. Like, they can also have you as a modern day slave. You can go be picking up trash on the side of the road for what, 9 cents an hour?
Nothing.
So what you gonna do with 9 cents an hour?
Just to get that inch of freedom to be outside.
I'm willing to demoralize myself
to be outside and get some
extreme
freedom.
Heat or whatever. I'm gonna be out here passed out, not.
And you notice the jobs they give them. The dog park place, recycle bin place, picking up trash. They don't ever give them no job that actually is, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And it's also the spaces that we're going to put you in public so that we can humiliate you, because
when people drive by,
as people are driving by, they can go, look at those folks. We know they're incarcerated because they have on this garb and they're doing this task. And now we can point fun, take pictures, laugh at them, feel better than them, not realizing we could be them.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
In the split of a second.
Yeah.
Because trust me, I didn't wake up one day and say, oh, millions of people all over the world don't wake up and say, oh, I want a mental health, problem, or I want an addiction, or, I want to be homeless, or, I want to go to prison for the rest of my life, or whatever the situation. Yes, there are precautions you can take, and there's things that you can do, you know what I'm saying, to try to make those things not happen. But people don't wake up and say, hey, this is the way I want to live my life, more than like they're either raised, born into it, or, it comes from just, a lot of things that we grew up in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it comes from, just what you've been around and what you know.
Yeah, small town shit.
Most definitely.
Are there any books or podcasts or TV shows or movies? Like, if someone's listening to this podcast and they're like, fuck what them bitches are talking about, that shit is not landing for me. I know a lot of us are driven by media and easily influenced by other types of media. Are there any other platforms or areas where recommend someone going to watch this show. It'll give you a real live view on something. Listen to this podcast because they're really talking about something.
Right.
Read this book. Do you have any suggestions on that?
Not necessarily. I am a big documentary person. I don't have any like specific, but I'm very much like somebody who, if I want to know something, or if I'm in like, you know, in the know, or like hearing what somebody's talking about, I'm like, dang, I want to kind of know a little bit more about that. I will Google or YouTube and watch different stories, different people. And then, I mean, because we're talking about addiction goes back like so far. Some of the stories some of the stories that you're gonna hear, I'm talking from World War, you know, when they were using
meth in World War II,
them up, just to, so they were able to fight, you know, at any time, and it kept them crazy, you know, after they being up all day,
and you don't get no support.
Then, you know, heroin for pain, you know, I mean, it goes back way far. So, I mean, really, if you can Google and you can YouTube, I mean, and even podcasts will show up different things. I love to listen to people's stories. I get on TikTok a lot, and I just will type in like addiction or, you know, sober testimonies. And I love hearing people's stories because I relate so much to these different stories, and I learn something from every time. There's not one time I listen to somebody's story I don't learn something, or I'm not like, dang, you know, I could have done that, or maybe I should try that. You know, you learn something new every day. As humans, we you know, should want to be knowledgeable and able to get information, especially when it has to do with our lives and trying to live good in the way we want to live and be happy, you know what I mean, in the society we're in.
As we wrap up, do you have any advice that you can share for people experiencing addiction, or for people who love someone experiencing addiction?
My advice would be to be patient. I can't tell you, patience is a virtue. My mother, you know, my whole family, but especially my mother, shout out to Christina, has been the most patient person with me. You know, I have not been the easiest through this whole thing, you know, from just, you know, the jails, my son, you know, showing out, just everything that I have done, you know. Be patient, and offer all the love and affection that you can, because most of the time I know I felt alone. You know, most people, even though they're not, and you might be like, but we're here, they feel alone,
isolated.
You know what I mean? Like, it's still a feeling that is trapped inside you. Like, in a nutshell, they still feel alone. Be patient, you know, and understand that not everybody can just put something down and be done. You know, I hate when people are like, well, I mean, why just don't do it? It's not that easy. If it was, trust me, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, you know? I just feel like love, be patient. And if you do know that somebody needs help, there are different things that you can do. I know we really don't like going to the law and all that stuff, but there's Casey law. I know that's a law. If you get, he was a boy that overdosed, and his parents, the judges wouldn't let him intervene because he was over 18. Now, if you get, I think it's like 3 signatures, and your family can Casey law and get you the help you need, even if that person won't go get it. You know, sometimes I know that my mom had been in the process of going to try to do it to me before I got incarcerated at one point, because it's sometimes it's beyond control of it being like, come on, Alexis, let's go. I wouldn't have went. It was going to take somebody making me have to get the help, and it's okay. You know, they will understand in the end, you know what I mean? And I just think, reach out. More than anything, reach out. Don't wait till it's too late. I mean, even though the little resources we have here around town, utilize them if you need them. You know, there's clinics, BHG treatment center. I've been there before. You know, I don't know how, you know, if people are really good about, you know, wanting to take medication to help their problems, but there's all different ways. There's therapies. There's, you know, like I said, MAT, which is a maintenance medication. There's just, you know, different things you can do to try to, you know, at least go in that direction. You know what I mean? But just be patient, love them, hold them, and I do feel like try to make a change, even if they don't want it.
Yeah. That's going to lead us to like our call to action. So every podcast episode, we're going to talk about a different topic. We're also going to create a call to action, so we're not just in here this bitch talking. That's not going to get us anywhere. I know you heard some good tips and tricks. You also heard about some organizations you may not have been exposed to or just knew about at all in the city of Paducah. But there's also just talking. Just continue having this conversation. Bring it up with your peers, even if they're not experiencing substance misuse. Bring it up with your friends and your family to talk about it normally.
Mm-hmm.
Normalize the conversation so that when things do happen, we're already prepared. So when things do happen, you already have a plan of action in place. Are there any other organizations that you want to shout out? I know you already said several, but are there any other ones that you want to talk about and just, shine light on?
Not necessarily. Like I said, we don't really, I hate it. We don't really have a lot here as far as I know for the Black community to be comfortable.
Yeah.
But I'm just a firm believer to at least utilize what you do have. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's better than, not having anything at all, I guess. But that's about it.
Yeah. And so then maybe the call to action is to create these spaces that we need.
Definitely.
If there isn't a space for you, if there's not a table that you're already sitting at, you may want to create that table. If there's not a space that you already can go to that is a sober third space or just a space to exist as a person and be a human, then create that. And it's not hard. We're sitting in the House of Ross right now. There's looks like about 20 person capacity in here to have a good little conversation. 5 people can make an intimate conversation. Like what you said earlier about that one person hearing this conversation could change their entire life. So think about that when you are having conversations, and not just about substance misuse, but when you're fucking talking negatively about shit all the time, that may be the first time that person even heard of that. And now they got a negative idea around it versus just having the conversation, being open-minded, and stop fucking judging everybody so fucking harshly when your shit ain't in order yourself.
Right. And we're so quick to put something onto social media or record or picture or something negative or something bad. Like, why not, put do something good, promote something good into the air. You know what I mean? Use those same tools to bring positive feedback onto conversations and things that people don't discuss.
Yeah. Yeah. I also looked up a hotline. Have you ever called this Kentucky Addiction Hotline?
I've heard of it.
Hotline?
I've never called it.
Okay.
But I have heard of it, and I do think it gives you resources.
Based on your location?
Yes,
okay.
And all of that stuff on what, I do know we have a lot of rehabs. I am happy they do have that 30-day rehab now here. I think it's called Mountain of Hope or something. We finally have one in Kentucky, or in Paducah. It's by the Board of Education, I think. I've never been to it, but I was just happy we actually got one in the town,
right?
Instead of being so far where people, sometimes aren't having the means to get there.
Yeah. And so maybe another call to action would be like volunteer in these spaces. So even if you're not someone who knows someone or not someone who is directly impacted by substance misuse, volunteer in these spaces so that you can be exposed to what's going on versus just creating a negative connotation in your brain based off of conversation. You don't know anybody who's actually experiencing this, because people who are navigating these marginalized issues, they are the experts in their experience. So when you are creating that idea of judgment around them and not talking to them directly, you don't know what the fuck you're doing in your brain. You're just creating some shit that is not necessary, when you could have just went to the source and had a direct conversation that would have opened your eyes to some shit that you wasn't even thinking about
or never knew.
Yeah. So like I said in my first podcast, I'm not good at closing. I don't know how to end things. This was a very deep, intentional, transparent, vulnerable conversation. I want to share that I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Very, very proud of you. Every day I understand you are always navigating addiction, but you've been 4 years sober, and that is huge.
It most definitely is. I never really.
It is important.
You are important. 15 years thought I'd be there.
But yeah, you are important. Your life matters, and everybody who is a human, we all have the same value. So when you are devaluing people based on their current living situation, you are also devaluing yourself.
Most definitely.
You are also harming yourself to think that you're better than anybody, because none of our shit is perfect. So you may not be navigating this, but you may be navigating that, and you over here trying to deflect on your shit so I can project on this shit, and you not handling your own. And I think that's something like we need to really sit with that. I don't have a quote for today because today was very deep and intentional, but I do want to leave you with. Actually, I do have a little quote. I will leave you with the House of Ross coffee bar and cigar lounge slogan, which is bringing the community, bridging the community together one cup at a time.